This is the David Green Show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate, the show where we pull back the curtain and share stories, details, and insights into the crazy world of real estate. Today, we're going to be talking about single-family investment challenges, from losing money to handling pesky pest problems, to understanding portfolio architecture and the role it plays in how you buy real estate. We also have a really interesting section on wholesaling versus the MLS, the strengths and weaknesses of each and how they affect the market, which markets I think have the best opportunity for future growth, why I'm leaving California, and a whole lot more. So if you're looking for the real estate show with no BS that pulls back the curtain and tells you exactly what goes on in this world, you are in the right place. All right, we're going to be getting to our first question shortly, but before I do, just remember, I want you on the show. Head over to davidgreen24.com/ask, where you can submit your question and be featured on a future episode of The David Green Show. All right, let's get into it.
Hi, David. Seth Baumgartner. I'm currently based out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. I work on boats, and I'm sorry for taking so long for me to get this video to you. I'm coming to ask you a question about what you would do with a duplex in Tallahassee, Florida. It's an 11-minute drive from the Tampa International Airport. It is an 11-minute walk from the A&M University over there. It is a 2-bed, 1-bath in both units. I'd rate it as a C neighborhood. And it rent for a unit would be $1,000. Rent for a room would be $800. Let me know what you think. Also, shout out to my team. If I could, I'd like them to be a shout out.
All right, Seth, thank you for the video here. Let's talk about your Tallahassee duplex. All right, the first thing that jumps out at me is the numbers. You're saying that it would rent for $800 a room or $1,000 a unit. Just seems odd. I would think it would rent for more than $1,000 a unit if you could get $800 for a room. And in a C-class neighborhood, I can't imagine you're getting a whole lot of upside like appreciation. So this is a cash flow play. And cash flow is going to be significantly better at $800 a room. What we're basically talking about, folks, is we could be getting $1,600 per unit when both rooms are rented out, or $1,000 a unit if you just rent it out as a unit with 2 bedrooms. That is a 60% increase in rent. That's a massive jump to your ROI. So my first thought is, why would you not do that? I'm imagining here that you're not so crazy wealthy that you don't want a 60% jump in rent. Because if you were, you probably wouldn't be investing in duplexes and C-class neighborhoods. So that's just where I'm coming from when it comes to the advice I'm giving you. Now, the upside is going to be a 60% increase to your revenue. The downside is going to be, it will be more work. You will have roommates that will occasionally have disputes. They will probably be emailing you to talk about it. So the question I got for you, Seth, is do you have the time and the energy to take on managing this by the rooms? You're going to have occasional roommate disputes, and you're going to have people to move out a little more often, and you're going to have to put it up for rent, which means your vacancy is going to be a little bit higher, which that will cut into your 60% increase to revenue because now you've got some vacancy. Maybe some move-out cleaning costs. I can't imagine it's huge when you're renting by the room. I don't also imagine people that rent by the room are going to be there for a couple months and leave. That's a big pain to haul their stuff in and out. I'm leaning towards, if you have enough demand, you should be renting it out by the room and not by the unit. And if you got 2 duplexes and you can increase revenue from $1,000 to $1,600, that's $600 a side. It's a total of $1,200. You'd have to invest $240,000 at a 6% return on investment rate in order to get $1,200 a month. So by just making the switch, you're increasing your cash flow by the equivalent of $240,000 of capital. That's a very, very big jump. So if you got the time and you got the desire and you have the will and the skill set, I think you should rent them out by the rooms. And if you have a really hard time getting one of those rooms rented and you're still getting the other one rented, the difference between $800 for the room and $1,000 for the unit is not that big of a difference. I think the upside more than justifies the additional work here. So I would do that until I got tired of it. And if I got tired of it, I would sell in 1031 into an asset in a better neighborhood where you could get more per unit. But great question. Shout out to your team. Let's make sure we all give them a shout out here at Real Talk Real Estate. Congratulations on the investment, and make sure you let me know how that goes. All right, folks, we're going to be getting into our next question of the show. But remember, if you would like to be on the show, and I want you to be, head over to davidgreen24.com/ask, where you could record your video and submit it just like Seth did here. Give me some content to make the podcast and become friends. All right, our next question comes from Daniela in Tallahassee, Florida, and it's about bed bugs.
Hi, David. My name is Daniela from Wilmington, Delaware. My question to you is, what do I do when my guest brings bed bugs into the STR? So I had an unrelated issue and had the exterminator come around. He found no signs of bugs whatsoever. Then one of the other tenants mentions to him that this particular tenant has been spending a lot of time at the home of someone with an active bed bug infestation. She begins to complain of bites. He comes back a week later and voila, there are bed bugs there. The guest tries to pin it on other guests, but the timelines don't match up. And my exterminator was able to get a confession of her saying that she's been with somebody with an active infestation. Now, what do you recommend to do? I've taken care of the whole issue, but as far as the money, I'd really appreciate your help.
Ugh, Daniela, you've got bed bugs. You've got a TTI, a tenant transmitted infection. And you're asking what could be done here. I don't know. I'm searching my brain to think if I've ever heard a story of a landlord that was able to recover damages from a tenant because of something like bed bugs. First off, you'd have to prove in small claims court that this tenant knew they were bringing bed bugs in and acted in a manner that was so irresponsible, because you may find courts that say, hey, they can't help it. Like, these things exist. Just like if your kid gets lice at school, you can't really go sue the other parents because their kid brought lice into the school. It's just a thing that happens. Like, if you get a cold from somebody, you can't go sue them and say, well, they gave me their cold. I'm thinking it would probably be similar when it comes to real estate. Now, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not giving legal advice here. It's hard for me to imagine a scenario where a judge is going to say, yeah, your tenant brought bed bugs into the property, and so they are responsible for having it fixed. But that doesn't mean I'm right. There is a possibility that someone has heard of this and a judge ruled in the landlord's favor. So if you're listening to this on YouTube and you have heard of it, let me know in the comments what you think should be done. If you have the name of some case law, if you've heard about this before, because I want to know what can be done here. I would imagine, don't have a lot of options. You're going to have to pay an exterminator. I would certainly ask the tenant, hey, I have it on good authority that you brought bed bugs into the unit. I'd just like for you to pay for the cost of the remediation. I had to pay this much money to the extermination company. Here's the invoice. That's what I'd like from you. And if that's the case, no further legal action will be pursued. I think even if you get a portion of that paid, that's a win for you. I don't know what state you're in. I'm sure some states have different laws and different procedures than others do. I don't know that I've ever heard of a landlord successfully coming out on top. And on that note, it's rare that landlords come out on top when it comes to tenant disputes at all, unless the tenant damages the property. Like, they tend to win in court more when the tenant ruined the property and the security deposit didn't pay for it, or something crazy reckless was done. I've seen that happen more often than something like bed bugs or other diseases. It's so frustrating, though. I don't blame you for being irritated, especially with a short-term rental, because all it takes is your future tenant getting bit by one of these things, and that goes in your reviews, and now nobody's staying in your house. You're also losing all the revenue from the time that your house has to be off the market to have the bed bugs taken care of. So when you have short-term rentals, something I've learned, these issues that happen always with real estate, leaks, the power going out, electricity problems, hot water problems, like, these are always an issue. An air conditioner going out. When you own real estate, you have to deal with these. When you have traditional long-term tenants, the stakes are very low. You just have an irritated tenant if it takes a couple days to fix an AC. When you're operating a short-term rental, though, and you have an AC go out or power go out or hot water go out or even the garage door not opening, the tenant may ask for a huge discount because they're usually on vacation. They expect everything to be perfect. So the stakes on a short-term rental, my point here, are way higher. And if you're going to be a short-term rental operator, especially if you want to do it at scale, you just got to understand that all of these small issues become very big issues in the short-term space that they don't with traditional rentals. Let me know, though, how you ended up handling this and if you did get some kind of legal judgment in your favor. Head over to davidgreen24.com/ask and submit a follow-up video and let us know what happened, because I'm very curious to know what you did with this tenant-transmitted infection. There you have it, folks. Real talk real estate. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it is cockroaches and bed bugs, especially in the short-term rental space. You don't hear about this all the time, but trust me, as someone that owns a significant number of short-term rentals, it happens all the time. All the time I'm having some kind of HVAC unit going out or electrical issue or something wrong with the pool. It just seems like, God, things break in these houses constantly, and your tenants always make it a really big deal. And you're always having to throw money at the problem, or your staff member has to take an earful of complaining from the tenant, and then they're in a bad mood because they just had to absorb all the negativities from someone else. So if you're getting into the short-term rental space, you want to make sure that you definitely have a long fuse because you're going to be dealing with a lot of irritation. All right, our next video comes from Gabe in Columbia, Missouri.
Hi, David. Thanks for taking my question. I have a property that is losing money, and I'm just wondering whether I should sell it or keep it. We own 3 short-term rentals down the Smokies. First 2 do very well. The third one just doesn't quite perform as well as the others. Last year, we basically broke even on rents, but after CapEx and some other expenses, we lost $3,600. I would imagine about that same loss this year, let's say between $4,000 and $6,000. So I'm just wondering if I should continue with losses like that or sell it and take a big loss. We put about $100,000 into the property after down payment and renovations. So if I sold it now, after realtor fees and everything, I'd be looking at about a $50,000 loss. I'm a small-time investor, so that's obviously a huge one for me to stomach. I would get $50,000 back, though. That's the positive, that I could use that for something better or hold on to it and save it until something better comes along. Or do I just keep going with the way it is, bleed it out, taking small monthly losses? Our other first 2 do, like I said, do well. They could cover the monthly losses, so that wouldn't be an issue. But I'm just wondering if I should get out of the investment now versus waiting. The only other option would be to try to make it a little better. There's an option to put a deck on the side of it that faces the mountains. Could bring in more revenue, maybe get it to break even overall. But that's just me putting more money in the property, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. So just wondering what your thoughts are. 3 options: sell it for a big loss, use that capital for something else, or just continue taking monthly losses, or try to improve it more by pumping more money into it. Just like to hear what you think. Appreciate your advice. Thanks.
Yes, Gabe. This is the dilemma of 2024, isn't it? Do I lose a little bit every month, or do I lose a lot by selling it all at one time? And this is not spoken of very often in the world of real estate, but let me assure you, as someone that owns a pretty healthy size portfolio of real estate, I've got short-term rentals, medium-term rentals, long-term rentals, commercial properties, residential properties. I got a little bit of everything. There's always something going wrong. And when the economy goes bad, it tends to go bad for everything, which it has. So, Gabe, your property's in the Smoky Mountains. That's an area where people tend to go on vacation. And when the economy's bad, one of the first things people cut back on are luxury items, of which vacationing and travel is one of them. So people don't have to go to the Smoky Mountains. It's not like they're traveling for work. They're traveling for fun most of the time. And so revenue is down across the board out there. And also, if you have a professional property manager, like I did do kind of in the middle of a legal dispute with them, they've been absolutely horrible with managing these properties, but they're trying to hold me in this contract that we signed up with them when I first brought them 12 grade A cabins. You know that they're nickel and diming you for a lot. These property managers are hideous. They're terrible. They can suck a lot of revenue out of your cabins to make sure they're making money, even though you, the landlord, aren't. So let's sum up your problem. You got one option, which is continue to bleed money every month on a property. Doesn't feel good. You got another option, which is to sell it, but revenues are down. So that means values are down on income producing properties. They're probably down 20 to 25% in the Smoky Mountains as a whole. So you're going to lose $50,000. That can't feel good either. A big loss of $50,000. You've got option C, which is to spend money. So you'd be losing money there as you're building a deck, which I'm guessing is probably $15,000 to $20,000, which you're hoping will increase revenue and stop some of the bleeding. So you're taking a loss, but not as much of a loss, but you're also taking some risk because you don't know that the deck is actually going to lead to increased revenue. Or you have a different perspective, which is hold it and lose money, but let the money from the other two that are doing well cover your losses from the one that's not. And this is why I talk about portfolio architecture. It is a different framework, a different way of looking at real estate investing than what most people hear. What most people hear is buy properties, get cash flow, quit your job, improve your life with the cash flow. And then they get into the real world of real estate investing and they find out that the situation Gabe's in is not unique. There are a lot of short-term rental operators in the same spot. There are a lot of traditional operators in the same spot. For the first time in my lifetime, what we saw was that rents did not go up because tenants could not afford to pay higher rents because they're not getting raises at work. But insurance and taxes have steadily been going up on the investors, as well as the cost of maintenance and materials, because what people charge you to do the work is going up. So every year, your properties are becoming less profitable, which is a crazy concept compared to what we've seen the last 10 years as our economy has slipped into a depression. Now, it hasn't been a depression where everyone was laid off at once like we're used to. Instead, this recession has been one where everything is costing you more money than it used to, but you're not making more money. It's the equivalent of everything goes up by 20%, but you make the same amount of money. That is the financial equivalent of you getting a 20% pay cut at work. But it's more dangerous because if your boss came and said, I'm cutting your pay by 20%, you would either work more hours, save more money, get another job. You would take some action to fix your position. But because inflation is so sneaky, it hits you and you don't take action. You don't go out there with a sense of urgency and a fire in your pants saying, I got to get out there and make something happen. You just slowly sink deeper and deeper into a financial resignation. So Gabe, your situation is one that a lot of people are in, if we're just being honest right now. You can take the money from real estate that's working and you can use it to cover the losses of real estate that's not. Your only other option is to sell it and take a $50,000 loss. I'd prefer not to see that right now because you're not getting crushed. You're just not making as much. You're kind of like almost breaking even. As long as you're still working your job, even though it's not fun, you don't feel like you're making progress, you are still in a good financial position. You're slowly paying off the mortgage. Rents should go up in the future. You will take advantage of inflation, and at some point, rates will come back down or the economy will do well. And this whole situation you're in right now, you'll forget about. You won't feel the sleepless nights, the anxiety that hits you, the emotions that make you feel like you're a failure because you're not making money in cash flow. In fact, this is why we have Real Talk Real Estate, because the other people who are taking into the shorts right now too, you guys need to hear Gabe's story. Gabe needs to hear that he's not the only one that's getting hammered, that everybody out there is getting hammered, and nobody likes to put their ugly pictures on Instagram. Nobody likes to take the worst shot of themselves and put it out there for the world to see. We all want to show our highlights, not our lowlights. But real life includes lowlights, and right now, the economy is full of it. The real estate investing world is full of it. There is a ton of pain and financial difficulty going along. People's reserves are running out. Their debt is going up as they build up their consumer debt on their credit cards just to get by. People are hesitant to change their lifestyles. Their expenses are mostly staying the same or going up, but the money that they're making is going way down, especially if you make your living through real estate. That could be an agent, a loan officer, a title and escrow officer, a short-term rental operator, a contractor, a painter, any of the people that make a living appraising, home inspection companies, home warranty companies. If you make your money through real estate transactions, you're probably seeing a 50% or more reduction in income because that's how fewer transactions we have right now in the space. So this is a time we all got to hang on. And here's my advice. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to listen to it. But I will tell you, it is okay to understand that you live in America, which is the wealthiest country in the entire world. And even as we make less money than we ever have, we are still richer than everybody else. It is okay to be grateful every day, to realize that you may live in a 1,400 square foot house when you could live in a 5,000 square foot house, but you have a temperature controlled environment. You have an expensive bed with a really nice mattress you sleep on. You have hot showers you can take every single morning. You don't go to bed hungry. You're actually incredibly wealthy, not only for the country, but for the entire time the world's been spinning. In fact, I'll say something even a little more controversial. If people have to move in with their friends and rent a room from somebody else to save money on their rent, and you got to learn to get along with people and be a little more considerate, it's okay. It is okay to have ups and downs, highlights and lowlights. It is okay when you're making a lot of money to deal with the problems that come from making a lot of money. And it's okay when you're not making money to deal with the problems that come from not making a lot of money. In my book, Pillars of Wealth, I talk about this three-pronged approach that you got to be good at making money, you got to be good at saving money, and then you got to be good at investing money. Well, when there's not as much money to be made, you got to play better defense. When there is a lot of money to be made, defense isn't as important, but maximizing offense is. You got to be willing to move and flow with how markets change so that your mood doesn't get bad, your emotions don't get bad. And here's the last thing I want to say. The more that you hang on to a dream or a belief about what you deserve in life or what you think it should be, the more pain you will go through when that dream is not realized. That's why I'm advising people, it's okay if you got to move out of your apartment and rent a room from someone else. It's okay if you have a 4-bedroom house and you rent out a bedroom or two to other people who want to save money, and boom, you just got roommates. Is it comfortable? No. Is there a human being out there that wants to do that? No. So you guys can just save the whole argument of, oh, I like my own space. Yeah, everybody does. We get it. Nobody likes sharing if they don't have to share. You're never going to find a 4-year-old that says, I want someone to share my toys with. They want it for themselves. It's mine. Every little kid loves that phrase. Every big kid loves that phrase. I love it too. All right, the next segment of the show is coming up where I'm going to read questions from you, the listeners, as well as comments from my Instagram and my YouTube. This is a lot of fun, so stay tuned. But before we get to that, a quick word from today's show sponsor. It's from the One Brokerage, my mortgage company, the best mortgage country in the entire country. If you're asking me, if you want to get some ideas about different loan products that you can use as an investor, if you're looking for a better interest rate than the one you got quoted, if you want amazing service, fast turn times, and knowledgeable loan officers, don't roll the dice and hope the person that you get is good. Talk to one of us and let us help you. You can email intake@theonebrokerage.com to be put in touch with one of the loan officers, or you can reach out to me directly. Just email me, david@davidgreen24.com, and I will connect you with somebody. We'll get you on the path to owning real estate today. All right, our last question of the day comes from Todd Smith, and he says, what markets are you looking to expand in over the next 5 years, and why these markets? Very good question, Todd. Since I wrote the book Long Distance Real Estate Investing, I get asked this a lot. David, where do you want to invest? Because people know I invest all across the country. If you asked me this 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I told everybody at every meetup that I did, everyone that asked this question, I said invest in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. Why, do you ask? Well, I knew that Californians were going to be leaving California, and they were going to go somewhere with agreeable weather, more conservative politics, and lower income tax rates. How did I know this? The Californians that lean towards the liberal side politically don't want to leave California. It's very simple. They're happy with the liberal direction that the state has been taking. The people that are going to leave are going to be the conservatives. So they're not going to leave a liberal state and go to another liberal state. They're going to go somewhere conservative. And Texas, Tennessee, and Florida all have a more relatively conservative political environment than California does. All right, I hope you're enjoying today's show. If you are, please do me a huge favor. Just head over to wherever you're listening to this podcast at, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and leave me a review, as well as make sure you subscribe to the show. The more subscribers that I get, the higher I get in the algorithm and the better content that we can put out for you. So please, if you're a friend of the show, do me a solid and do that. Also, consider sharing this with somebody else that you think might benefit from the message or enjoy hearing it. And if you're listening on YouTube, do the same. Please make sure that you subscribe to be notified of future Real Talk Real Estate shows. All right, moving into the next segment of our show. This is what I call the comment section. We pull comments from YouTube, from Instagram, from Facebook, from anywhere that people leave comments, and I share them with all of y'all. Our first comment comes from Kelly Rachel 2539. She says, is recasting available for owner-occupied properties? Is there a minimum lump sum required in order to do a recast? You know, Kelly, you guys ask some really good questions sometimes, and I don't know the answer to if there is a minimum lump sum required, and I don't believe that there is anything prohibiting you to do it on owner occupied, but now I want to make sure. So I'm going to do a future episode of Real Talk Real Estate with Christian Batchelder, my partner in the One Brokerage, who does know a lot of these specifics, and we will talk about what recasting is, who might want to take advantage of this with today's higher rates, and what some of these requirements are. So thank you for asking that. From Craigslist 811. Please start making your live streams again. Now, Craigslist, you could be talking about my Instagram lives. I occasionally go on Instagram Live and take questions from people. So if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you do. I'm David Green 24. Just get the E at the end of Green, and you'll get that little notification that says David Green is going live. Or you might be referring to my YouTube channel, where I also do YouTube lives. I was doing that for a while, going live, talking about what's going on in the economy, what real estate news is happening, and there is a very good chance I will do that again in the future. So keep an eye out for all of that, folks. All right, the very last segment of our show before I let you get out of here is called David's Deal. And in this segment, I like to share some details about a deal that I am doing. And what I just did is called alliteration, where every word starts with the same sound. All right, I'm not going to get too deep into it because I'm going to go deep on this deal in a future podcast episode. So let me just give you the overall picture here. I purchased this property through the MLS. You know, that place where everyone says you can't find a good deal? That's exactly where I got it. It's in Oklahoma. It's got a $400,000 ARV in a really good neighborhood that I think is going to see market appreciation equity. It was listed for $285,000, which was a pretty good price. I made an offer of $225,000. Other offers came in. I upped it to $232,000. The sellers went with somebody else, and guess who that somebody else was? A wholesaler who came in and said, we will pay more than David is paying because we're going to go market this to our channels and find someone that's going to pay even more than we are paying. Okay. So you want to know how this works? I offered $232,000. The wholesaler says we'll pay $245,000. They then try to sell it to someone else for $255,000. That person who's paying $255,000 could have bought it off the MLS themselves for less than that, but they're going to the wholesaler, which is like the black market MLS. All right, that's our show for today, everybody. We covered quite a few topics, including what I do with a duplex that had rooms or units to rent, how to handle bed bugs, what to do when you're losing money on a property, what markets I like, as well as a lot of other fun stuff. Look, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And no, I can't have a podcast without your support. And that's Real Talk. So if you would please subscribe to the show and leave me a review about what you like about the show, it would help me and other listeners a ton. You can do it wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever it is. If you would like to be featured on the show, I would love to have you. Please head over to davidgreen24.com/ask and submit your question there so I can have more content to make these shows. And remember, as always, to follow me on social media at davidgreen24. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you on the next one.